that you might be carrying. And yeah, feel this light of grace that God is constantly giving us and just waiting for us to receive that. Oh, light of grace, shining above, lighting my dim, shadowed way. Oh, light of grace, easing my pain, you have shown that God is love. I'll give my life and my love unto the one God of love. Though clouds may come, hiding his face, hiding the smile of my God. Though clouds may come, still he is there, shining brightly. God is love. Oh, I'll give my life and my love unto the one God of love. Sing it out. Amid the storm. Amid the storm, tossed on the sea, ooh, beacon of hope, guiding me amid the storm. Shelter is near. Oh, trust in him, for God is love. I'll give my life and my love unto the one God of love. All things decay, passing away. Only the light shall remain. Yes, all things decay. All things decay. But still there is one. Yes, he is true and faithful, for God is love. Let me hear you. Oh, I'll give my life and my love
join me in prayer. Good morning, beloved Heavenly Parent. Good morning, beloved true parents of heaven, earth, and humankind. We are so blessed to be here in this house of worship with beautiful music that is really crying out to you, that is honoring you, that is glorifying you, God. And we don't want to just sing songs, but can truly be an embodiment of your love and your true sons and daughters that you have been waiting for. As the song says, you just want us to really return and reciprocate that love that you have given to us so profoundly. You have instilled really your creation and your seed of love in every human being that was ever born on this earth since Adam and Eve, and that will ever come into this world. And Heavenly Parent, especially when we see nature now, the spring season is so beautiful. We see everything is growing, everything is exploding with love. The grass is getting greener, the leaves grow back on the trees, and the beautiful cherry blossoms, the daffodils, the crocuses, everything is crying out for your love and is glorifying you. And most of all, Heavenly Parent, we know we are the culmination of your creation because you created us with a mind and a body and a spirit and a soul. And I pray, God, that we can truly never forget that, but we can always use the opportunity to honor that relationship and truly give you the credit that you deserve, God, that truly that love can also flow within us, that we can really make more effort and be able to truly live a life that is centered on you, that has no more shadows, no more hidden corners and drawers that we just hide away from you, but we can be in your light. We can stand proud and tall and be your instrument of peace and of love. So Heavenly Parent, we invite you here that you can really come and be present, and we want to also allow you to reach this community, this nation of America. Heavenly Parent, this is a new beginning at the first day of May. We thank you for your protection. We thank you for the last 4 months that you have allowed us to be alive and experience so much. We want to see everything from your perspective and offer you this next 4 months again and the rest of this year, that we can truly be aligned with you, that you can see that we can see you work through our hearts and minds, and most of all our actions within our communities, within our families, within our jobs, within our nation here in America. We invite you, we ask you to come here to speak through us, through the songs, through the sermons, through the worship. Please touch everyone's heart, that we can be renewed, refreshed, and go forward and do your will, God. I report all this in gratitude with all my brothers and sisters here, and in my name, Monica Lewis of a Blessed Center family. Achu and amen. Welcome everybody to Sunday service. Glad you could make it today, and we give thanks to the Passaic community who are volunteering. I'm an adopted Passaic member today. So, and next week it will be Essex County community. So, brothers and sisters, we can now the Sunday school children can be dismissed to you can go to your respective classrooms. And yeah, please, you can stand up again and greet each other. You can either keep the masks on or be mindful of those who don't wear masks. Yeah. brothers and sisters. Let's welcome the band up again with the song called Rescue by Lauren Daigle. All right, a lively band. Let's welcome our lively band.
Thank you. So this song, Rescue, really spoke to me this week. It felt like something that I needed to hear, and I got a sense that maybe there are some people in the congregation here today that needs to hear these words. That regardless of the challenges we're going through and the things that maybe we feel we can't even show about ourselves, God sees it all. You are not hidden. There's never been a moment you were forgotten. You are not helpless. Though you've been broken, your innocence stolen, I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. There is no distance that cannot be covered over and over. You're not defenseless. I'll be your shelter, I'll be your armor. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. I will never stop marching to reach you in the middle of the hardest fight. It's true, I will rescue you. I hear the whisper underneath your breath. I hear you whisper you have nothing left. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. I will never stop marching to reach you in the middle of the hardest fight. It's true, I will rescue you. Oh,
for God's light shines upon a path of thorns. I planted yellow daffodils at Belvedere. Flowers to pierce through the frozen ground after withstanding the cold of winter. They herald the coming of warmth and new life. I'm always amazed at this providence displayed by Mother Nature and by the strength of the sprouts that appear where snow still remains. Roses and lilies that bloom in spring or midsummer are beautiful, but I most appreciate the little daffodils, whose humble, unassuming blooms breaks the spell of cold winter. Called to be the only begotten daughter and true mother, my path is to break through the icy grip of human sin and help bring God's blessing to the world. I often identify with this lovely flower. Adieu.
Thank you, Koji. And yes, before I want to introduce our sermon giver today, I'm reminded of the Devoted program. It's a program for our youth, like young adults, teenagers who are trying to embrace the faith of our first generation. And during that Devoted program, I was really touched by Jonah's testimony because she really she made deliberate effort and certain decisions in her life to really walk this path consciously and embrace this faith. And I felt that was very powerful. As a first-gen parent, it's sometimes hard to bridge that gap between the generation gap with our children. So I feel Jonah is like a spiritual go-between mediator between the first gen and our children that are growing up also in this faith. And she's talking about new beginnings, and she just became, if you didn't know, she became a mother of her third son, Ruben. So give her your congratulations when you see her. And how much, yes. So please welcome up the mother and director of the Blessed Family Ministry, Jonah Johnson.
Hi, everyone. It's great to see you. I really love walking around, so I'm going to stay here. But yeah, I felt very inspired. Today, of course, is May 1st, and it's springtime. So the theme, New Beginnings, really just kind of jumped out. And I feel like when I was reflecting on new beginnings, a lot of different things came up around, I guess, and I kind of wanted to hear from you. What are some things that are inspiring or hopeful when you think about new beginnings? It could be, yeah, what do you think when you think about new beginnings? Does anyone want to raise their hand? Babies, yes, that's a good one. Babies, also in springtime, lots of baby animals born too. Anyone else? Blessing, yes. We have some newly blessed people who are newly blessed, new couples. New hope, yeah. Hope. Every morning, right? Every morning is a new beginning. Yeah. So there's a lot of hopeful things about new beginnings, and I think springtime really embodies that because it's like, yeah, it's a reminder constantly of a new beginning. I remember, especially when I was with my first two sons, and I was very tired as a mom at home, and I was looking out at the tree. We had this huge tree by our window in the kitchen, and we lived in Norway at the time. And this tree, there's a lot of evergreen trees in Norway that stay, right? Like throughout, the leaves don't fall off. But this tree, I was watching it like, wow, isn't that kind of exhausting? Like every year, every single leaf has to fall off the tree. And then it comes every bud again, and then you do it all over again. And then there's other trees over there they just stay the same. And I was looking at this tree like, oh, I don't know, is that exhausting? How do you do that all the time? And thinking about my own life of like every day, every morning, sometimes it's really a lot when you have small children and getting out the door and you do it all again. But thinking about that and thinking about nature and spring helped me think about the way we grow, right? It's a lot about new beginnings. And sometimes we try to think of things like very linear, like we kind of grow like this. But looking at the seasons and like the trees in spring, it's very like a cycle, right? Cyclical growth, right? You go around and you come to a new space again. And so then I was thinking, well, new beginnings, there's new beginnings when it's something totally new for you, like something you've done for the first time. What's some examples of that? When it's your very first time to ride your bike. When it's the very first time to, anyone else? Play baseball game. When you go to school, yeah. First time as a parent. Those new beginnings, they're very exciting. They also have their challenges to them. What are some challenges about doing something for the first time? Something you've never done before? Fear, yeah. You don't know how to do it, yeah. It's a totally new experience. Anything else? You meet new people? Yeah. It's new surroundings, so it's new people you meet. What was that? Yeah, it's sometimes a shock because it's not quite what you thought it was, maybe, or because you just don't know. So there's like a lot of hope and excitement around new beginnings, but there's also challenges with it. And then I started thinking more and more about beginnings and thinking about there's new beginnings when it's something you've never done before, but there's also new beginnings when you want to begin something again, right? Begin again. And what I'm thinking about here, right, is, okay, let's say maybe there's a project working on or in your career or in a relationship that as you're in it, as it's ongoing, you realize and kind of wish that it could be better or it could be different, or knowing what you know now, I would have begun it differently, like a rebirth, yeah. Can you just take a moment now to reflect in your life if there's some areas where you feel like you wish you could begin again. Again, it could be a project, it could be in a relationship, but what are some areas where you're like, now that I know what I know, or we are where we are, I wish I could have done it differently from the beginning. So just take a few minutes to reflect on that. Let me get a little water. And I'll ask if there's anyone who wants to share. I'm going to share too, but it's nice to hear from you. Okay. So anybody want to share any new beginning? I know this is more personal, but something you kind of wish you could begin again or do a little differently now that you know what you know, now that you are where you are. What's that? Parenting. Whoop, whoop. Relation with children. I think a lot of parents could feel and relate to that. That it's really interesting. As mentioned, I had just my third son, and our other two are much older, so 7 and 6 years old, and then now Ruben, he's 4 months. And it was really, I was very nervous actually beginning again, having a newborn, because in some ways right? Like, you know what it's like to have a newborn. And also we'd gone through, my sons are older, so it'd been like 3+ years without using diapers. It'd been, sleep was easier. They're more independent in school. So it was like a lot going in my mind, like, can I really do this again? Can we do this again as a family? And in some way, it made that new beginning, starting again, feel more challenging because you actually know, right? Whereas new beginnings where you don't know, you just don't know. Ignorance, I guess, a little bliss. That makes it scary, but it's a different kind of scary to begin again. And I think that's a challenge that it's important to think about because we talk a lot about rebirth and beginning again, and I think, especially around springtime, I think a lot about True Mother, who often shares about she loves springtime, and because of the hope and the new beginning, right? And we need to be like new wineskins. We hear that a lot. And could we actually pull up the reading, just the first slide? Because that, I think really, when I was picking out that part from Mother of Peace about the daffodils, I felt like, that's interesting. This is why often, this new beginnings at spring, but especially daffodils, the first flowers to pierce through the frozen ground after withstanding the cold of winter. They herald the coming of warmth and new life. And something really interesting, like this spring has been really beautiful. Have you noticed that? Like the blossoms, right? It's like, and it's also felt very long. And I think it's because of the cold. Like for me, I don't know, I really love warm weather. Even though I lived in Norway a long time, I still love the heat. And I always this spring has felt unusually cold, but the blossoms have become amazingly beautiful. And I think it's that combination. I'm sure others maybe know more about why that is, but the combination of the cold and the warmth is what's made this extended spring so beautiful. And so if you think about it here with the daffodils, but also with this idea of new beginnings, when it's harder to start, maybe there's more challenges there, being able to pierce through that, the bloom, the blossom is even more beautiful, right? And so it's important to think that way because it can be really hard to start, right? It can be very hard to start again if we talk about beginning something again. And so, thinking about, this is really what inspired this sermon, was especially thinking about, okay, well, if we're asked a lot to begin again, to start anew, why is it so challenging in some ways? Because we actually have every day is a new day, right, to start again. But that's easier said than done. And one of the challenges I said already, right, is it's sometimes scarier when you know what you know. When you know, okay, starting again looks like this. Again, I want you to think about your own personal example. That's why I asked you to reflect, what is it something that you wish you could start again, and why is it hard to do that? So I shared one challenge that it's just the scariness of knowing what you know. And for me, with my own experience having our son again, up until he was born, I really felt so nervous, back and forth, even though I was wow, I'm really so excited to have a new baby again, but oh my gosh, I'm so nervous because I was going through all the things that I knew would happen. Was I really ready? And after he came, a lot of things, came back naturally that I remember that I forgot. But it's been like that kind of daffodil or blossom feeling so amazing for our family. He really softens us all. It's this cute little newborn. We've kind of got into the phase of we were used to each other, family of four, and and it's a lot of different emotions and challenges that we have, but he adds this dynamic to our family that I feel we've all softened and brings out this tenderness even more. And it's such a beautiful thing to see. But, up until he was born, I was really nervous about beginning again. You don't know what it's going to look like. So that's the first challenge, I think, that I see in that scenario. And you can think about in your own particular situation, maybe what's holding you back with starting again. Now, a second challenge or a second reason why it's often hard to begin something again has a lot to do with letting go of what you've invested. So let's say maybe in this example, it's something like a new project, not a new project, an ongoing project, or maybe it's in your career or in your mission, something that you feel well, I've already done so much here. So to just really think blank page, if I had started this from the very beginning, knowing what I know now, that's very hard to do because you've built up a lot of things already. And today with May 1st, for example, I hope I'm getting this right, the Foundation Day with Unification Church, where it was founded, Holy Spirit Association, right, by the solar calendar. especially I think when you think a lot about God's providence, true parents course, there's a lot of these experiences where a lot was invested in Christianity, the relationship with Christianity, and even though it was a new beginning, founding Holy Spirit Association, it wasn't exactly what was the intent. If Christianity had embraced True Father at that time, it would have looked different. And so there's sometimes these, when you start something, it's not easy to let go of all the things you already invested, or it could have been different if this and this had worked out, but now to start totally new feels very challenging. And I think that, this is a big deal because often we don't really start totally fresh, like blank page canvas, because we feel attached to what we've already done. Or the third challenge here is that sometimes when you're looking back at starting something again, there's a lot of different painful memories attached to it. So it's very hard to start something again when it brings up pain or something from before that you kind of have to relive. And I think, I don't know, you can rank the 3 different challenges I've talked about here. The scariness of what you already know, then there's the letting go of what you've invested, and then there's reliving some of the pain maybe that exists. And that's part of why you want to start again, because you feel that, wow. And I'm thinking, I'm going to go really into relationships here because I think this is a big one with relationships that you feel, I really wish this relationship could be better or different. And especially now that I learned this, right? And I think parenting is a huge one where you learn later. And even with my 3rd son, looking at all the things we know now, I'm like, oh, wow, it's so much easier being a parent after you've had 2 or before, right? The things we know, the patience that I have, all of these things, it's easier. But it also brings up a little bit of pain or feelings of like, wow, I wish I had done this better the first time. But you don't know. The first time you just don't know. So I wanted to give another example of relationships and help. Again, I think the key thing here is for you to reflect on your own situation. So before I go into another example, I wanted to ask another reflection question. So the first one you had was, what is something you want to begin again? Now that you know what you know, you wish you could do it differently. And then the second part, when you're thinking about that thing, is how? How would you do it differently? And get really specific here. So let's, again, blank page, even though there are challenges for doing it differently. Because you know what you know now, how would you do this differently? How would you start that relationship differently? Or how would you start that project differently based on what you know now? Can you reflect on that just a little? And then if someone wants to share, you can share. They're like hard questions. It's not easy to, I've had time to think about this. I was actually asking my husband last night, like, can you give this example? I was, practicing with him. I was like, oh, this is really hard. And I think for some people, it's easier for some things to just come up. Like, I feel like I live, and maybe this is a difference I notice with my husband and I that I feel is really nice. I can hold on to things. I think about things. So it's easy for me to like, oh yeah, this I wish I began again, or this or different. But for him, it took a really long time because, and something I love about him is he forgets. I think it's easier to forgive. You just forget things, right? Or it's harder to bring that up. That memory doesn't hold on to it. So I do want to acknowledge that we're different. Like for some people, maybe you thought of something right away, and others it's like, I don't know. But anybody want to share something that you know it's personal, but that you feel like this is how I would do it differently, knowing what I know now? You want to share? All right.
I'll stay brave here. No, I would have been more present in real time and really ask the question, what is this child going through right now? Like all the time. And
Thank you so much. That's really beautiful. You couldn't catch it? She said she would be, you can add if there's more. You want to say it one more time? Okay. She would be more present the time and asking, what is my child going through? And what do they need? And like asking that all the time. And this is as a parent, right? Reflecting on what you would do differently. So that's a good example, and you can think in your own example. And here's the thing. Knowing what you know now, how to do it differently, you can already do that now, right? A lot of times that gap between where we are, reality, and where we want to be, and that leap of faith over, the trick is to already be doing what you wish you did. And it sounds funny because we're like, well, you can list all the reasons why that's hard. Because maybe if it's a parent-child, maybe my child doesn't want to talk with me, or it's very hard to talk with them. Or maybe, I've tried with this project and I tried that before and it didn't work, right? There's lots of history there. But a lot of the beauty, and again, in the reading, that example of the daffodil pushing through, and the whole idea of spring coming back again is that we often look at the past and we think like, oh, we want to go back in the past and redo it, right? But that doesn't make sense because we didn't know it in the past, right? If it was that new beginning or that new person. So the beauty of right now is that you are who you are now. You've gone through what you've gone through now that you do know. So you can only begin again now with that. You can't just go back to the past and do it again because you didn't know then. Does that make sense? It's like this cycle. But we often kind of will put the focus on the past, that's where it needs to be fixed, but it's actually in the present and in the moment because of who you are now and what you know now, that you can do it differently. Just like, the daffodil that comes up again in spring. And this gets really deep when you think about God, right? When you think about God's heart through the providence, through restoration. I was thinking especially about Jesus. Look at our nice pictures of Jesus. And how painful it was, Jesus going through the cross. And then as we learn through divine principle, why the time when true parents came, God worked to create democracies. There's different things for that. The path wouldn't be the same. Even though it's so painful and we wish what God was trying to fulfill happened the time of Jesus, it didn't. But looking through true parents now, what were the ways that God worked? Also the family that true parents grew up in, father and mother, much more protective than what Jesus grew up in. So there's these little ways that God was kind of learning from what happened, even though it's painful, in order to begin again. And it's hard to sit in that. I think it's hard to acknowledge and feel the pain of what you wish would have been different. But the beauty is that you can do it differently now. And it takes a lot of courage to do that again, right? It takes a lot of courage to begin again, but it's so powerful. And so I think it's one thing to talk conceptually, but I feel like it's so much more helpful to get like real example. And I always talk about like parent-child relationship is big. I think one of the key ones, I've felt a lot of parents think of areas where they wish they could begin again relationship. And so I wanted to share one example for me in my relationship with my dad that was one of these begin again situations. And this was back in 2011, and I had been newly blessed, and my husband and I, we went to visit my family, my relationship with my dad hadn't been good in many ways. I felt he didn't really listen or understand me. And there were so many things that I wanted to say to him that I hadn't. So I decided, okay, Dad, I'm going to tell you everything. I'm really sharing my full heart now. All these things I'd held up for many years that I wanted to say that I didn't. And so I did. I let out everything one night. My husband and my mom were in the other room, and my dad and I were in the kitchen. And it was a really, really big argument. And I was just sharing a lot of things. And ultimately, I felt like he didn't understand my heart at the end. So I had kind of built up this feeling like, okay, I'm just going to share everything, and then he's going to understand. And he didn't. And so after that, I just felt like I give up. I really just didn't want to try anymore in that relationship. I kind of had that begin again idea where I was like, okay, part of a challenge in our relationship is he doesn't understand my heart. So if I share everything, then we can begin again. But that moment, it didn't go as I hoped or expected. So then, that was 2011, and pretty much our relationship was not good after that. We talked a little bit here and there, but we didn't see each other. I didn't see him in person for pretty much 5 years. Yeah, till 2016. And part of it was, just like I've shared, like the feelings of a lot of that pain from that conversation and not wanting to relive that again, I think on both sides. And then in 2016, he got really, really sick. And so I had, at that point, I had my two sons already. And my mom just said, just go and serve him. And he was living in Tanzania at the time, and I was living in Norway. And the last thing I wanted to do was get on the plane to go see my dad, who was really sick. But also, because of the situation, I felt like this is really important. Like, I don't know if he's going to get better. He did get better, but at the time we didn't know. So anyway, there's the dilemma. And I'm saying this, obviously, if you can, you don't want to wait till it's kind of life and death situation. But sometimes that's in our relationships when we're really avoiding or it's hard to begin again. That's when something pushes us, right, to go. So I remember that I went to go help my dad as whatever way I could. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I'll never forget this feeling when I stepped off the plane. It was like I couldn't remember why I was so upset anymore. And it's that feeling, and that's how you know you've really forgiven someone. Because for a long time, the thing that I wanted, right, like when we talked about what is the thing you need to do, what would you do differently? And I wish I could be more forgiving. That was what I realized. I needed to just be forgiving of who my dad was and how he was, but I couldn't. I felt like, I don't know if I can ever really forgive. And yet, that feeling came. Now, that wasn't just me. You can't force forgiveness. I really feel it was grace from God. It was a lot of things I had worked on bit by bit. But the key thing was I went not for my sake, but totally for him. Like, for me, that's one example of where true love, like, really melted away a lot of the pain and emotions and feelings to this point where I was like, wow, I can't remember why I was so upset. And I could just be there and really just love my dad and listen to him and begin our relationship again in a way that's much better than before. And the thing about that example, and I think one of the key things in really, when we talk about new beginnings, when we talk about like rebirth, when we think about areas in our life or relationships where we wish it could be better, it's not like something you can just will, like, yes, okay, now it's going to be better, right? Or do. It's more complex than that. But the thing to remember that's more simple is that sometimes you need to kind of relive the pain or what existed in order to create that new beginning again. And how many times do we avoid that, right? Like, I feel like I was trying to get, what is the biggest challenge in creating a new beginning? It's often having to relive what was maybe painful or what we wish had never happened, right? But that's in the past, and it happened. And part of being able to accept the beauty of new beginnings is to recognize, okay, this happened, but what do we need to do now to make it, to learn and grow from this together? So I hope that example helps. I think the reason this, I guess, is so much on my mind is it's something that I've thought again about, and where I really connect with True Mother too is it's sort of similar with childbirth. Other women know this, and for men it's really hard to understand, like, birth. But the thing that I felt when I was trying to explain to my husband, like, the feeling and the pain around labor and birth, it's like, it's different than working out or something where you can decide how much pain, right? How much you can take, and then you stop. With labor, the pain keeps coming. It gets more and more intense, and you cannot, you can do the epidural thing, but there's still, like, you've got to sit in a lot of this pain in order for the baby to come, the new birth or beginning. And I think, so with new beginnings, and the daffodil example, piercing through the snow, I don't know, that might not be easy to do, but being able to sit in that pain and then still continue, that's the key to that new beginning. Does that make sense? And I think that that's one of the things that we've got to remember. And I pray that also, don't just think about yourself and your situation, but really connect it to God, to God's heart, to God's providence. How many times did God have to begin again? And I think often it's hard when we feel, if we just look at ourselves, right? Our flaws, our strengths, our weaknesses. But if you connect it to God's heart, it becomes so much deeper. It's such a deeper experience if you think, I don't know how to do this, or this is really painful, but I really want to begin again. Heavenly Parent, can you help me, right? Or connect, how did God do it? How did God begin again? There's so many examples in Providence and history. You can think of that. So many examples in True Parents course. But I hope that that can help you to really feel courage and strength and to go deep with new beginnings, because that's what it's about, that rebirth. It's not just about, I'm going to do this one or two things a little differently. It really is going deeper into that pain or that challenge that you wish you had known. And how can I, now that I know what I know, you're actually so much more stronger and equipped to begin again in a beautiful way. And especially when it comes to relationships, the door is always open. It doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like that. But it really is, especially parent and child. I can't emphasize this enough, and I know that there may be very different challenging situations, like I shared about mine with my dad, but please have courage, connect, and really strive to begin again with that courage, thinking of the daffodil, thinking of whatever helps you, think about how you would do it differently and already start doing that now. Whether that's, wow, if I had this amazing relationship, we would be calling each other all the time, or we'd be texting little funny memes to each other. Do that now. Do that now. Maybe you won't get any response. Maybe you will. Or, if you had started this project differently, what would you do differently now? Knowing what you know, maybe you would, I need examples for this to really work, but whatever that is that you feel like, I wish I had done this in the beginning, do that now. So with that, I want to really encourage you. I hope you feel hope, excitement with spring, and God God's with you. I do?
Thank you, Jonah. I really appreciate your description of parenthood and the changes that come with it, and the new life and new beginning, as well as your relationship with your dad. That's really also very touching. Yeah, I thought about when you were talking about the importance of time, right, in the growing process, that we can't rush it. It's not instantaneous, but we got to be patient, persevering, and all the noble virtues are part of that growth process. And then also when you talked about pain, I thought about, it's important also not to self-pity ourselves or relish in the pain. That can also be the case, right? That we think maybe that pain is never going away, but it's just transitional, right? There is the light at the end of the tunnel, as excruciating as it might be. But that was very inspiring, very hopeful message. Thank you so much. And please, brothers and sisters, now you can share with each other. Like the two questions, right, that came up was, what would you do differently if you could, like thinking of rebirth, thinking of spring, and then how would you do it differently? So the what and the how. Please, share with each other your new insight. All right, brothers and sisters, I see you're still talking. It's still lively. Please carry the conversation back to your homes as well with your loved ones and ask them how they want to make a new beginning. And now, please, let's all rise for the last song. And it's time to make our offering. So the baskets will be passed around. And also you can make your offering online if you like to. And the song will be New Soul by Yale Naim. I hope I say it right. Am I? Something like that.
All right. Actually, can we give one more round of applause to Jonah? That was a really needed sermon today, I think. And funny enough, we chose this song before we knew what her topic was. And this song we were in sync somehow, the wavelength here. It's called New Soul, and it's just perfect. You know, I'm a new soul. I came into this strange world hoping I could learn a bit about how to give and take, right? So sing along if you know this, and if not, you can pick it up. It's pretty easy. I'm a new soul. I came to this strange world hoping I could learn a bit about how to give and take. But since I came here, felt the joy and the fear, finding myself making every possible mistake. La 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 la. I'm a young soul in this very strange world, hoping I could learn a bit about what is true and fake. But why all this hate? Try to communicate, finding just that love is not always easy to make. La 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 la. This is a happy end, 'cause you don't understand everything you have done. Why is everything so wrong? This is a happy end. Come and give me your hand. I'll take you far away. Here we go. I'm a new soul. I came to this strange world hoping I could learn a bit about how to give and take. But since I came here, felt the joy and the fear, finding myself making every possible mistake. La 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 la. La 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 la. Everyone. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Please join me in prayer. Good morning, our most beloved Heavenly Parent. We come to you on this incredibly beautiful spring day, May 1st, and really, really humbly, Heavenly Parent, with our hearts as your children. You know each and every one of us so deeply. You know our past, our pains, our where we want to begin again, and I really pray, Heavenly Parent, for all of us here that we can find strength through you, and also find so much joy in your heart of the joy of the beauty of new beginnings, the joy of the beauty of starting again, of reconnecting, of being able to forgive, to let go. Heavenly Parent, we know that in so many ways there's a lot of pain and suffering, and so many times we can be discouraged in the world, about the world situation, or in our own personal lives, but there's your vision, your dream from the very beginning, this ideal world. That's the eternal, that's the real. The pain and the suffering, it's temporary, it's part, we're getting there in this transition towards this incredible, beautiful world. And I pray that we can feel strength in knowing that, Heavenly Parent, and we can feel strength in this incredible time that we live in, and strength in supporting each other, that we have this community, that we have our families and brothers and sisters around us. So we're not alone. I think that's so important to always remember. We thank you, Heavenly Parent, for all of your love and guidance. I pray for each and every person here, and we want to offer this up to you with grateful hearts. In the name of Jan Johansson of the Blessed Central Family, Jew.
Right. Thank you so much, brothers and sisters, for coming to Sunday service. And you can get a bag lunch downstairs and enjoy the nice spring weather outside at the picnic benches. How about that, to make a new start for the new week? Thank you very much. Have a good week.
la la la